And welcome to our November 30th Intermediate Planning Webinar. My name is Dan Bahe, and I am one of the Precision Business Planning Specialists here at AgSolver. Today we'll be going over cattle production as an alternative management. To run through our webinar agenda, we will have our introduction, select a field that would benefit from cattle production as an alternative revenue source, select zones and work scenarios representing standard assumptions and associated costs, and then compare ROI on zones and scenarios. And then we'll follow up with any questions anyone might have. So today we're going to be working out of the Bahe Farms enterprise, and the field that we will be in will actually be the buildings field. And out of this field, we're actually going to be working off of a scenario based off of 2014 corn production on this field, which 2014 was a pretty average corn production year. What we'll be doing is taking this acreage south of the building site out of production and then putting that into pasture ground, building a fence, and then having about 4 calves on that acreage. And the goal here is to produce cattle on this acreage for the next 5 to 10 years. I have 3 nieces that will be going through 4-H, and we are looking to put some acreage into pasture ground for them, and we thought what better spot than on highly unprofitable corn acreage. So what we're actually going to do is first create a scenario or copy a scenario based off of 2014 corn production. So what we will do, we'll click on the green copy scenario underneath the building's field name, and we will select our actual production corn 2014, and then we will name this 2017 corn production with cattle production, and then click Save. And really what we're doing, we just created a carbon copy of our actual production corn 2014 scenario and renamed it. And so the same crop budget that is being applied to this particular field. What we will do, we will then edit the crop budget. And instead of $4 corn, we're actually going to put that at $3.50 corn. And click Save. For our budget, we're still looking at roughly the same amount of crop input budget that we had in 2014 on this particular field. So we're really not going to change that a whole lot. We're just going to change commodity price. So here's our new scenario if we're raising corn on the entire field. But what we're wanting to do is take this highly unprofitable acreage out of production. So we're going to draw a zone, click on the green Add Zone button underneath, and then our drawing tools populate. Click on the polygon drawing tool. I'm just going to draw a simple zone south of the building site by placing points. And then I'm going to follow the field boundary right around. And then to close our boundary, we will just connect our last point to our first point. And that pulls up our crop budget for this particular zone. I'm going to name this cattle production. And now we'll start filling out our budget for the cattle production acres. So right now we're only producing about 120 bushel yield on this portion of the field. But what we will do, we're actually going to take target yield down to 0 bushels, since we will not be raising any corn on this acreage anymore. Commodity price, we're actually going to reduce that to 0. And now we're going to add our other revenue from cattle. So I'm going to name this other cattle profit. And for our cattle profit, we're looking at about $150 a calf. Right now we're just speculating. Say we buy a calf for $900, sell it for $1,600, and then have an additional $400 worth in miscellaneous, could be feed grain, also veterinary expenses, then vaccinations, water tank, what have you. So we're looking at a profit of right around $150 worth of calf. But if we take that 150 and times that by 4, it's roughly right around $600 an acre. And this zone is roughly about 8 acres. So we'll divide that $600 profit and turn that into a profit per acre. So 600 divided by 8 is roughly right about $75 an acre. So for equipment, we will eliminate that expense. Our seed cost, since we will be planting a cool and warm season grass mix, roughly right about $60 an acre, and we're actually going to amortize this out over 5 years. So we're going to take that 60 divided by 5 to get our amortized cost, and then we're going to divide that by 8. So our cost is $12 an acre. Fertilizer, we're going to cut that down. Herbicide and insecticide at 0. Insurance, 0. Interest, we'll leave that in there. Or actually, we'll eliminate that. So grain drying, handling, and hauling, that will be at 0. Land costs, we'll still leave that at $250. Labor at 10, we'll drop that down to 0. And then custom hire. For custom hire, we're actually going to put in a cost to build fence on this acreage. And so we're looking to spend about $2,000 on fencing. And if we divide that by 5 for 5 years to get an amortized cost, that comes to, and if we divide that cost by 8 acres, that comes to a cost of about $50. We're amortizing that cost out. So within the budget, we have our custom hire to build fence, our land cost, and our cost to seed this acreage down. And so then we have our revenue, which takes care of the vet bills and just looking at our straight profit off of that acreage on a per acre standpoint. Now I'm going to go ahead and click Save. On that 8 acres, and if we scroll down, you can see the difference. Before, when we were producing 120 bushel corn, on this we were losing $311. Compared to now, we're only losing $247. Have not losing 64 acres, or have a and then have a reduced or an increased return on investment of 34%, but an overall reduced total profit, we're losing about $519 less. Now I want to create a scenario if we didn't have cattle production on this acreage. So what I'm going to do is copy scenario and base it off of 2017 corn production with cattle. What we will do, 2017 corn production without. Cattle production. Click save. So and what we're going to do on this zone is eliminate that 8 acres of cattle production. So we'll come to our options drop-down menu right beside our zone name, and we're just going to delete that zone. So are you sure you want to delete that management zone? Yes, delete. So then now I want to do a side-by-side comparison, which will be more profitable on the entire field, raising all corn or corn with cattle production. So we will come to our options drop-down menu right beside our field name buildings. Click on that. And then our very first option is compare scenarios. Go ahead and click on that button. Pulls up our scenario comparison window. On the left-hand side, we will have our 2017 corn production without cattle production versus corn production with cattle production based off of 2014 field average yield. And you can see before, where we're projected to lose about $142 an acre, now we may only lose $125 an acre. Return on investment went up from 19.4% to 20%. And our acreage opportunity ratio stays about the same. But you can see we're losing about $600 less. And that's at $4 corn or $3.50 corn. We can turn prices over to $4. So if we go to our scenario 2017 corn production with cattle production, click on the options drop-down menu, edit budget, change commodity price to $4. Say the market rallies and there's a drought in the southeast. And click save on that. So if we click on our crop budget for cattle production, so that's still staying the same. Now what I want to do is compare scenarios. If we have $4 corn, which in a sense we're comparing 2017 corn production with cattle production next to our actual production corn 2014, since we have the same crop budget on the crop acres. So we'll click on the compare scenarios tab again. And this is where I like to play around with commodity prices regarding what could happen. So at the left, we'll have actual production corn versus 2017 corn production with cattle production. So you can see it's pretty competitive with raising corn on this acreage. We can also print this page. by clicking the green print button. Just select our printer that we want it sent to. If we want to send it to our Canon printer. It's a nice one-page handout. Cancel that. Now I'd like to open the floor up for any questions anyone might have regarding this scenario. While we wait a moment for questions to come in, I do want to mention that this webinar will be posted on to our AgSolver YouTube channel. So you can go back and re-watch this. And please, if you have any questions regarding Profit Zone Manager or how we created this scenario, or if you want to create a scenario like this on your own fields within your enterprise, please feel free to give me a call. My cell phone number is 319-238-1978, or you can contact our support team at support@agsolver.com, or you can email me. My email address is djbahe@agsolver.com. So I want to thank you for viewing our November 30th webinar. Thank you.